Learning tunes that you enjoy, that inspire you on the guitar is an absolutely crucial part of your guitar journey for many reasons. If I look back at my own journey, and I know it's true from talking to a lot of other musicians, a lot of my time, especially at the beginning, was dedicated to copying my idols and to sounding as close as I could to their original recordings. Learning another guitarist's tune or even part of a song or solo will teach you so many things about the nuances of technique, tone, articulation, and so many others. But as you grow as a guitarist and grow past the intermediate level and start understanding things like music theory or fretboard navigation, learning tunes, or again, just fragments of tunes, can have a completely different function. At that level, these transcriptions or tunes that you learn can become a huge source of inspiration and ideas, which once dissected and understood with the lens of theory and proper fretboard navigation can become systematized, practiced, and integrated as part of your playing. In other words, at that level, it's no longer just about learning a solo, a song, or a lick because you like it and you want to reproduce it. It's more about understanding the underlying logic, trying to put yourself in the guitarist's mind and how they came up with this solo or these licks so that you can reuse that tool later and incorporate it as part of your own improvisations. And by the end of this video, you should be able to do the same. Hello everyone, I'm Will Metz, or Guillaume Metz, my French name, and welcome back to this YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a former engineer who then became a professional guitarist and music educator. As an engineer, I really fell in love with the logic behind music theory and fretboard navigation, in general, the art of playing the guitar. And my goal is to help other people and convey this knowledge to empower and educate aspiring guitarists and help them become better players, improvisers, and composers. My videos are not quick fixes, and instead I like to deliver longer and in-depth music and guitar education. So this is why you'll notice that my videos are much longer than what you normally find on YouTube for guitar lesson. Of course, if you like this content, remember that the easiest way to help me out is to like, subscribe, and share. This is invaluable. It helps me grow the channel. And without further ado, let's get into it. A while back, I came across this solo over here by Martin Miller, who is one of my favorite guitarists, and he's playing here with Valery Stefanov, who is a great keyboardist in the jazz fusion style. Now I'll link to the full solo down there, but here I want to focus specifically on one part of it, but I really recommend you listen to the whole solo. It's insane. So let's listen to this one passage over here. So again, at that point, you listen to this, you're like, okay, I really like this. I like this lick, I like this line. And the first thing you could do is go online and try to find a tab or a transcription for that solo. I looked for a tab and I did not find any. But even if you did find a tab, again, I think that if you just learn a solo note per note without understanding it, without all the things that we're going to talk about, you might gain some technical elements, of course, but you're leaving a lot on the table. Now, if you really need a tab to learn the solo, maybe you can't figure it out just by watching a video or by ear, I totally get it. And there is no shame in that, right? If it helps you actually play it, that can be a good first step, but you don't want to stop there. Okay, so step number one is understand the context. So this is really the first thing I do when I'm looking at this solo here, is rather than just diving straight into learning it, I'm going to try to think about the musical context in which it's played. Because if you understand that and you know how it's linked to the original musical context, you can then play it in any other context. So by context, what do I mean? The two most important things are going to be the key and the chord progression, or the harmonic context. So essentially, I'm trying to ask myself, what key is Martin Miller improvising over here? Or what keys, right? It could be several keys, it could be a modal context as well, but I want to try to understand what he's improvising over, essentially. So again, here you could start with the good old trial and error for guitarists. You just kind of noodle around until you start finding a key center and then see what scale he might be using. And here you would notice, as we'll see, that it's E major. And this can totally work, of course, but there is an even better way, which again, I really recommend, and that's to understand the chord progression, which if you understand harmony, will tell you what key you're in. You can deduce what key or scales or modes you need to play just by looking at a chord progression. That's why learning theory and harmony is so useful. And again, you can do a mix of both things, right? You can noodle around a little bit and then listen for the chords. I mean, there's going to be some trial and error involved since you're trying to listen for what's happening. No matter which angle you approach it over here, you will realize that the key is E major, and that specific lick's played over the 4 chord. So what does the 4 chord mean? It means that if you harmonize E major and look at all the chords that are built on top of every scale degree, the 4th chord will be an A major, right? So this is, sorry about the distortion here, but I'm about to play a solo and I didn't want to change my sound. But yeah, so anyways, it's going to be the 4th chord, A major, and this is where that lick is played. At this point, if that's exactly what I did when I was listening to this song, I hadn't even tried to learn that lick first. I was trying to find the key kind of by ear and the chord progression. Once you have those elements, step number 2 is to actually play or practice that scale, the scale of the key that you're in this case, E major. So why would we do this? Well, the first thing is that it's a good opportunity to get some practice in. People are always confused, like, what do I practice, etc. Well, here you have a tangible thing that you're trying to achieve with a tune or a lick that you love, and it's giving you an opportunity to review some theory and some fretboard navigation. So rather than jump straight on the guitar, again, if you're trying to grow and get to the next level, I would start thinking, okay, what is E major? What are the notes of E major? So you start rolling them out, right? E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp. To find the notes, you can use the good old technique, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. There's all sorts of techniques. Maybe you already know your scales and memorize this, but point is, get in touch with a little bit of theory first. And this is a great way to do it. The next step, if you understand harmonization, is to think, okay, what are the chords in the key of E major? And in E major, if we harmonize our scale, we'll do it in triads here. We'd have E major, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A major, B major, C sharp minor, and D sharp diminished. Okay, so now we're starting to contextualize. We understand we're in this specific key. This is where this lick has been played, and it's going to help us find the lick. It's going to help us transcribe it, because that's the other thing about practicing your scales and kind of mapping out that scale, the E major scale and or pentatonic scale. It's that since that lick was written in that key, at least now you have a framework that you can operate within. You're not just working in a vacuum where any note is potentially being played. You know that it's very likely that in this lick, Martin Miller is using 95% or even more of the notes of that scale. And so it's going to be much easier for you to pick up the lick by ear. This is a very valuable lesson, right? When it seems daunting to pick things up by ear if you don't know the framework, if you have no framework to operate within. If you're just looking at the whole fretboard and anything could be played and you're just literally trial and erroring every note, that is not productive and it's very frustrating. But if you have a framework, in this case the E major scale, you'll see it's much easier. You'll find the notes that he's playing much easier. So let's just review the E major scale really quickly. I like to, again, use the cage system to navigate the fretboard. It helps me contextualize around different chord shapes and understand where my chord tones are. We don't really have an open shape in E major, but I guess you could start with the low E and go. Then you'd have the D shape, which is the one that follows. Next one is going to be our C shape over here. Right, I'm listening for the chord first, trying to find my tonics in there, right? The one note. Then we go to the A shape. Then we'll go up to the G shape, next one. And finally, the high E shape over here. And you could keep going up. That solo actually happens pretty high up on the fretboard. So, you know, by all means, the next D shape here. And even the last C shape, which is where that solo we'll see starts. Okay, so this is E major pentatonic scale over here in all the shapes. By the way, I know a lot of people in the comments say, ooh, there's too much distortion, I can't hear. Sorry, there's distortion on that solo, so I put distortion on my guitar. It's not a big deal, it's okay. I didn't want to switch sounds every time, so I'm using distortion the whole time here. Sorry if you don't like it. Next one is the full major scale. So same concept, we're gonna go through the cage system, but this time we're gonna play the full 7-note scale. D shape, C shape, A shape, G shape, E shape, and finally you could go back again, D shape here, and the last high C shape over here. Then you can take this a bit further, of course, in your practice. You can try to build up your speed. You can play it with different groupings. You can noodle over an E major backing track. Just, again, really get warmed up to that scale, to that context, because that's what you're going to be using to transcribe Mr. Martin Miller's badass lick over here. Again, this step over here of theory or of figuring out your scales, etc., can be bypassed if you already know everything really well. But let's be honest. Right, we can all use a little more practice, especially when it comes to theory and practicing your scale. So I definitely wouldn't bypass. I myself do this all the time. Again, it's a good opportunity to do some practice and with a purpose behind it. Everyone asks me, how do you memorize all your scales, all your keys, all things like that? Well, if every time you pick up your guitar or you're learning a song or you're improvising over a backing track or whatever, instead of just going straight to the noodle zone, you just spent a little bit of time thinking about the scale, its notes, its chords, and then really, systematically or with structure reviewing all your positions and practicing them and trying to get better technically, you will remember all those things, right? It's about manipulating these tools and connecting with them in real musical context. It's much better than just taking some pieces of paper or writing down all your scales a million times, right? Because now you're connecting it to real musical situations. And by the way, at this point, you can probably already see that in order to really take as much value as possible from the songs, the tunes, the solos that you're learning, if you want to apply the method that I'm giving you here, you need to have quite a bit of knowledge and understanding of theory and fretboard navigation. So if that's where you're struggling, right? If all the things that I'm talking about here don't really make a lot of sense because you're stuck at that level, then I really recommend that you check out my Metz Guitar Academy. For a lot of guitarists, learning theory, fretboard navigation, and getting all the right structure and foundation to break through plateaus and become the best guitarist that you can be is something that's very daunting. It's something that's confusing. You waste a lot of time on, videos like this on YouTube or other channels, trying to piece it all together. And instead, what I created is a system, a method, a structured approach that will teach you step by step all the things that you need to learn about technique, theory, fretboard navigation, all the important aspects of playing the guitar. And again, really guide you through the whole process through a real mentorship and within a very amazing and supportive community of like-minded guitarists. If you're interested in this, you can watch a free training using the link below, or if you're already excited to hop on this journey, you can book a call with me. It's a free call, it's 45 minutes. I will just, ask about your goals, about your weaknesses and what you really need help with, evaluate to see if you're a good fit. I don't really take everybody. You need to have a specific level to enter. But again, it costs you nothing to just give it a try. The worst that can happen is we'll have a 45-minute conversation. I'll give you a few tips and I will give you some guidance no matter what. And if you're a good fit and if you're interested, I would love to welcome you in my Guitar Academy. So again, if you're interested, watch the free training and or book a call, and I hope to meet with you. Let's get back into the video. Okay, so step number 3, you now have the context, you've warmed up on the context, you've done a little theory, you've practiced your scales, etc. It's now time to learn the lick. Okay, so this lick again is very fast, it's fairly technical, but it's okay. I'll teach it to you at a slower speed, and again, you don't have to play it as fast. Again, that's the beauty of extracting value like this from other people's solos. If you understand what they're doing, you don't have to do it exactly like this, all right? And you can work your way up towards that speed if you want to. So it takes a little bit of trial and error, especially without a tab, to figure out that lick. But this is what Martin Miller is doing over here. So I'll play it very slow, and then we're going to talk about the logic behind that lick. So again, that lick starts all the way up here in the C shape of that E major scale, this one here. So here goes the lick. So again, right now here, I haven't put on a metronome yet. I'm just trying to figure out the literal mechanics of that lick. And then of course, in the next step, you will want to practice it with a metronome, especially if you can't play it at that speed already, which is fairly likely, right? It took me a lot of time to get that one to speed. It's pretty challenging, but that's how you increase your speed, is by using a metronome. It gives you a guide. You know exactly what speed you're at, what speed you got to go to, and you can make incremental progress. Step number 4 is now to find the logic behind that lick. So we know it's an E major. And we can see by kind of playing the lick that there seems to be some type of system being used by Martin Miller. You have to understand that most of the things that guitarists play has been systematized and practiced. A lot of people think that everything is just pure creative genius, just, invented on the spot. But most likely, if you really analyze guitarists playing, you'll see that it's a bunch of different ideas and systems and ways of practicing that are kind of chained together in a creative way, of course. And there is a lot of creativity, and sometimes you do stumble upon something you've never played or practiced before. But a lot of the time, it has been systematized and practiced. So most likely, when you hear a solo, there is a system, and that's what we're trying to figure out here. So again, before that little pattern happens, there's this little arpeggio here. Now, this arpeggio is actually, remember what we said, this little lick is played over, at that moment, the A major chord, or A major 7 if we're using tetrad. So here, Martin Miller is leading from C sharp over here, going up to G sharp, and then straight into a major 7 arpeggio. So an A major 7 arpeggio, what are the notes? We have an A C sharp, an E, and a G sharp. So starting with C sharp, then straight to the 7th G sharp, and then just a straight up arpeggio, right? So A, C sharp, E, G sharp. And it's at that point that the actual lick starts. So we're here. And And here what you'll notice is that Martin Miller is really using a variation, a twist on a very common system that guitarists use all the time, and that's the system of sixth, right? So you're playing like this. Right? Or ascending. Right, so I'm sure some of you have already heard this kind of playing, right? It's used all the time. And here, instead of just using these, so if we start over here, Martin Miller is going to approach the low note over here on the G string by the note before in the scale. So instead of just, he's going. That's the basic system. And then he does something else, which is when he gets to the high note, so approach the note from the sixth here, he's going, and then sliding down one note in the scale. And then repeating. Again, one note before, slide down. Okay, now in the actual lick, he's actually skipping one of those sixths. So instead of doing this, he's bypassing this sixth over here and going like this. Right, straight down to the C sharp here, and then just finishing the lick. Now see, that little nuance, that's for his solo. That's what he wanted to play at that moment, but doesn't take away from the whole system. You don't have to skip that one part. Once you understand the system, you don't have to do exactly the same thing, and you understand the logic, you know again, so it's a basic logic of intervals of six. But used again by approaching every lower note, one note before in the scale, so, and then sliding down one. And then you can finish it. Okay, so at that point you understand the lick. And now it's really time to practice that system, right? It's not about that lick, it's about practicing the new system that you've created, okay? And other than just practicing it, you also want, and I'll show you how to do this, to expand upon it. For example, here the whole thing is played going down. How could we use the same system to ascend on our fretboard instead of descend? Or here we're using sixth on between the high E string and the high G string. But you can play sixth intervals between any sets of two strings. So how could you generalize that system and just play it kind of everywhere on the fretboard? This is how you really grow on the guitar, right? You start it with one lick that lasts a few seconds on the video, literally, because it's going so fast. And it's developing into a whole practice routine, and it's going to give you ideas that you can use now and incorporate as part of your improvisational toolkit, and not just in E major. Once you practice it in E major, you can practice it in all the other keys, and then you can use it everywhere if you like how it sounds, which I love how it sounds, so now I use it everywhere. Thank you, Martin Miller. So how do you practice? Again, it really starts with the metronome, right? You start at a speed that works for you. Here's 80 beats per minute. And you can use whatever time division you want. If you want to go slow, you can start with eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then you can start, either going up in tempo, or you can change division, like 16th notes. 1 E and a, right? of course, you can speed it up, whatever. Like, I don't remember the tempo of the tune, but it's pretty fast. So how could we ascend this, right? That's the thing I wanted to do, because I love ascending those. So you could do the same thing with that lick. So here I'm doing the same thing. I'm approaching one note before, but instead of going down, I'm going up to the next note on my high E string. Right now you have a new system where you can go both ways. So again, you could put on a metronome, take it slow at first. And then the other way. There we go. Next step now, like I said, is you can generalize two different sets of two strings, right? So again, you can play your sixth over here as well. If you're in E major, you could go. And now you try to apply the same system. So remember, you go one note before, go up to sixth, and slide down one note. Okay, so that's your pattern on those sets of two strings. And as you can see, I had a little hesitation over here. It could get pretty tricky to kind of find your way here. And again, one thing that can help you with those six patterns, or at least that helps me, is using the harmonization of the scale A, B, C sharp. This will help you see those sixth intervals, and then of course you have to know the scale to know how you go up and down around these intervals of sixth, right? So one more time, we're here. And you could go up the other way again. Okay, so that's how you systematize, again, and expand upon that lick. The next step would be to try to do it in different keys. So here we're in E major, take a totally different key. And again, here you could probably use this lick as well in the relative minor. So we're using it in E major, you could use it in C sharp minor, because that lick, you're kind of going up and down the harmonization. So it doesn't really matter what your center is. It'll matter more when it comes to where you start or finish this lick and which notes you're emphasizing once you're done doing your run, right? But you could also do this in the relative minors. So here we could do something in C major, right? So now we're in C major and we try to apply the same lick. So you start thinking of your sixth intervals first. Right? And then you do the same thing. You can start wherever you want. So we'll start with the G major, kind of sixth here that comes from this triad, and we could go like this. And then again, remember, you could go the other way around. Etc., etc. And finally, last step, what I love to do is take this to a backing track, right? So now that you have the system, if you really want to put it as part of your vocabulary, take a chord progression, or go on YouTube, put on a backing track, and improvise and try to put in that lick or that line as much as you can, right? By doing this, by practicing it, by making it a system that you can apply between different sets of strings and that you can go up and down, and then again relating it to the key, but then also practicing in other keys, that plus playing it into context over backing tracks, and in no time, that lick, that one little lick, becomes part of your vocabulary. Again, this is something I resonated with. I don't know what you are going to resonate with, but as a guitarist, if you love guitar, you should have these moments where you're listening to something, you're like, damn, that sounds cool. And this is an opportunity because now you have interest. That interest turns into motivation. You try to dive in to this lick, understand it, again, put it into the context, do the whole theory part before it, leverage all these elements. Because if you just learn the lick and take a tab, but you don't do all these extra steps, you're basically just learning a little bit of technique, but you're missing out on a lot. Like I said, you're leaving a lot on the table. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope that you learned a lot and that this will make you excited again to learn other people's tunes. Because I know there comes a time as an intermediate where you're like, I'm sick of learning other people's music. I want to make my own. But there is still a very good way and creative way to transcribe other people's tunes. It's just a totally different process. You're not doing it you're not being a musical jukebox repeating someone else's thing stupidly. You're trying to draw from their creativity and take what you like and then understand and put it into your playing. So this will help you grow and expand your bank of ideas and your vocabulary on the guitar. Again, if you feel like you lack the theory and fretboard navigation skills to do those things, and if you need help with this, then very easy. You can watch the free training or book a call with me. It's completely no cost. There's no strings attached. Don't worry. I'm an honest guy. I'm trying to grow a community of guitarists. I'm trying to help other people genuinely. So it's really just for your own good. And I love meeting other guitarists and helping them out, even if they don't end up joining the academy. The academy is it's a long program. It's a year long. So of course there's some degree of commitment attached to it. It's really only for people that are very serious, right? So if you're not super serious and you're just shopping around, definitely that program won't work for you. You need that commitment. You need to want to really learn everything, and it's going to take some time. But if you're just curious, again, no matter what, just book a call with me. No strings attached, and I'd love to meet you. I'll see you in the next video, and take care. Hey, before you go, make sure to check out my library of videos. I have a bunch of other videos on all sorts of different topics, and I especially have some on theory and fretboard navigation. So if you're interested in getting started there and you're confused about theory and fretboard navigation, please check out the other videos on my channel, and take care.